Hey there, it's Bijal, and welcome to another episode of Be Epic Today. And again, we have another epic guest with us, Shivanii Ray, who also happens to be my epic daughter. Shivanii, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dad. I'm
This is
excited to be here.
strange interviewing my own daughter, but it's been a long time coming since we started our interviewing um, learning process. So we'll get into that in just a second. But first of all, congratulations on your new position, and
Thank
we'll talk about that in just a second. So first of all, how are you feeling about this new responsibility you've just taken on to be the global community engagement champion for financial freedom?
I am beyond excited for this because I think it's such a good. It's such a great group of people working together to make something awesome for kids and on a topic that's not really spoken about in school. I'm sure that we'll get into a little bit about us from a financial standpoint of how education wise, we never really dove into it that deeply, but I am just beyond excited to be part of this and be able to help kids move forward to a brighter, better future and how to be financially smart.
So I think the reality check for me, and we're going to be just bouncing all over the place here. But when you started on Monday, and the first couple of days was really diving into the content, really learning much more about the program that my friends Chris Farrell and Paul O'Mahony have put together. And I think after 2 days, hey Dad, I've learned more about finance in 2 days than I have my entire life.
Yeah.
And while that's a wonderful compliment to the product, it almost seemed like an insult to me. I was like, oh, really? Have I done that? Like, when I look back on it, I was like, you know what? You're actually right. Like, of the many topics, and again, we've explored as a family so many topics over the last. I mean, you're 20 now, and I think you really started to be part of the personal development, business development world almost like age 2 or 3, but
Yeah,
let's say
I
around
don't
age,
remember anything different. Like,
yeah, let's say around age 7, 8, which is really when you really started to kind of become aware of this world. Even though I'm sure I dragged you to a few events even before that. But
definitely.
and you've learned many topics over that time. I mean, God, you've learned personality analysis, NLP, elements of hypnosis,
Speaking on
body
stages,
body reading. I used to remember those times we used to kind of sit and read people's facial expressions,
micro expressions. Oh,
yeah,
that's my
and micro
favorite. Yeah.
expressions. And our learning platform was Lie to Me as our starting point. So we used TV as a way to bridge into education. So a lot of topics in this field, and it wasn't until you kind of said that to me, I was like, oh, you know what? That is actually one area that I actually haven't done a good job of teaching you. And it wasn't, by intention, but I also think it's very reflective that I think financial illiteracy is actually rampant, not just amongst children, but amongst most adults too. Because even
Yeah.
when I went through some of the modules, when I first looked at the financial program, I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't done this myself. And this would be a kind of a cool product for my kids to go through. And even though it says on the website it's for 7 to 17-year-olds, you've now been through many of the modules there. What's your take on the quality of the content that you've been just kind of really going through from a company perspective, but really you're learning a lot too?
Firstly, I would say that the quality, I mean, I'm 20 now, but if I was a kid and I was going through it, I would be um, not only engaged and having fun, but the quality is just so superb. It's made to make sure that the kids are, paying attention, is focused, it's bite-sized. And frankly, bite-sized is not just for kids anymore. Adults have a lower attention span than a goldfish. So, the content is made in such a way that it's really condensed, but very simple to understand, 2, maybe 3-minute videos max that you go through quickly. For someone like me or you that's going through content, we could watch an entire, month's worth of content in one go. But for a child, it can be done over a span of time. But it's just done so well. It's explained so well. I was sitting there and going holy crap, it's that simple. And yet when we look at finance, most of the time, it's just such a big gray cloud for most people, children and adults alike, that when people mention finance, my immediate thought before, I think, watching these videos and being part of this was I'd rather leave that up to somebody else. I don't really want to get involved. It's no fun. But after going through the content, I'm damn, this is really very, simply put, and it's very understandable once you take away all the, heaviness that finance, comes with, and just look at what it actually is at its fundamentals. And, going through the program, things started to click and make sense that not a lot of things in the past when people have explained finance has ever clicked like that. I think every conversation I've had about money or finance, I've tuned out, honestly. Just no thanks. I don't want to talk about this. Let's talk about
I think you're right. And I think even my own kind of childhood experience of money, first of all, I don't really remember being taught about money, so it's something that you almost have to kind of start learning once you enter the job market or whatever, right? So I think that's for me reflective of my even teaching you, which was, I never stopped to think, hey, I need to start teaching my kids. I think we taught more than maybe a lot of parents taught, but I think it was more accidental. The basics.
Yeah, we kind of just came across it, stumbled onto it. It was never hey, we're learning about money now. We're learning about finance now. I think the biggest conversation that I remember having about finance was when Bitcoin and stuff became a thing in our lives, and we started talking about that. I was looking back onto conversations that I distinctly remember about finance, and I think that's the only one that I can remember vividly.
Yeah, and as a family, we've always made kind of big decisions together. But the one thing, I never really included you or your sister Kushani on was our day-to-day management of money. And it wasn't we spoke to a couple of friends of ours over there in India, where Dr. Shamila has actually given the responsibility of managing the money to a 16-year-old daughter, Ashley. And I was you know what? I haven't done that. And I was and if I feel I'm a progressive parent and I haven't done that, the reality is I don't know how many parents really include their children in the management of household finances as well. But let's kind of get back to the program. So, so I've been consulting for the company for about 6 months, since January now. And what was very clear was that the company needed a community engagement champion. And your name came up because I've kind of mentioned your background, having gone through kind of a global schooling experience, and then producing your music album age 15 and speaking on stages, since you've been 8. And, and Paul said, hey, would Shivanii be interested in this role? I was well, you know what? I can only offer it to you, or only can open the door for you. And then you and Paul can chat about it. And if it resonates with you, then, it's up to you to say yes or no. So that the choice is yours. So what about this opportunity? Obviously you weren't familiar with the content when you were offered it, but you were familiar with the cause and the importance of teaching children and teens financial literacy and entrepreneurship as well. But from a parent's perspective, and maybe a dad perspective too, it's almost like everything you've learned has kind of prepared you to take on this kind of this opportunity and challenge of this role.
Yeah, so I would say what drew me in was firstly the group of people that created this. Like, the passion behind this is such a big thing. If people really believe in what they're doing and what they're sharing, that's one factor. But the other factor was I was looking at it and I was like, this is a missing piece for a lot of people. This was a missing piece for me, in some ways. And we look at the education system and how many holes there are in the education system. And this is a big one because, now being 20, you start to look at finance, you start to look at savings, you start to look at investing. And this should be something that is taught way early on because, frankly, money is an important part about life. Managing your finances, being financially smart. And if people are only learning that at the point where they are starting to earn money in their 20s, or, whatever that is, or even, not learning this their entire lives, there's clearly a big hole that needs to be filled. And that starts with the children and the parents of these children. And I was looking at the content and I came across their page. I mean, you've shared stuff with me and it just immediately resonated with me because, frankly, I looked at it, I was like, I wish I had this when I was younger. And I would love to be a support of something like this because I know how many kids and parents this can truly change the way they look at money and not look at it as a big gray cloud that I mentioned earlier, but look at something that's fun, that is something that they can explore and really grow. And I just got sucked in straight from the beginning in a great way because I know that I can bring value, in being a face that people can look at and go, yes, financial freedom. It's just there needs to be more kids involved in having this conversation about money and parents and have that back and forth conversation. I think this is what that's what this provides. That's what it provides. It provides not only the education, but the start of the conversation that can move forward into so many kids being more financially smart in the future.
That's awesome. And so, in your short yet epic life, you've gone through certain phases of learning. So, we went through your music career. Before that, a lot of it was around personal development, personality, in the NLP. And then we went through a phase of gamification and becoming really one of the world's top experts with your boyfriend Bogdan on gamification. And then recently, you kind of picked up interviewing, and I think it all started when you were interviewing. Was it the Grammy red carpet?
No, the Emmy.
The Emmys, okay, the Emmys red carpet. So you kind of got a taste for interviewing, and again, even then you were really representing a community, a nonprofit community for that. So the words community, engagement, interviewing, these are all things that your unconventional education system, and we have to kind of let people know here that you chose not to go to high school. So you dropped out. No, you didn't drop out of school, but we as a family were forced to leave the US in 2010, which means that you left school at age 10. We then global schooled for 5 years, and at age 14, you decided not to continue to go to school when we were going to come back to the US. Instead, you went on a 2-year internship and learned everything about almost like role-playing based business learnings, speaking. That became your education platform for 2 years, and then you kind of you started to explore this unconventional world. Then you worked with India's #1 business coaching company for a year, so that gave you a great foundation in entrepreneurship and helping businesses as well. Yeah. And then you came back to the US, and then you kind of had, and then actually, no, you didn't come back to the US because you basically went straight from India to Europe, and now this opportunity. Yeah. So when you look back at your own career and you look back at everything you've learned, how does it feel? Does it feel like this was a role you were made for? How are you feeling about I call it, what do you call it? Synchronicity or destiny, and your education that's prepared you for this role?
It was kind of divinely timed, I would say, because a week before that, I think I was Bogdan and I, my partner and I, were liming around Warsaw, the city that we now live in Poland. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't know, what's coming next. Like, I'm looking for something. Something was missing, and I didn't know what it was at the time. But I'm like, I was working on, another type of interviewing thing about unconventional life and unconventional living, and that's something that it's still working on. But something was missing, and then when you called me at like 7 o'clock in the evening, when like, Shivanii, you're gonna get on a call right now, and you're gonna Paul's gonna talk to you about something, and I'm like, it's 7 o'clock. Like,
in fact, ironically, I think it was this time 7 days ago. This time exactly a week ago, I just got on a call with Paul. We talked about the importance of engagement that had to be added with the content's great, but we wanted to create engagement to really get kids more involved in sharing and supporting each other. And your name came up. I got on the phone and said, Shivanii, can you get yourself ready to talk to Paul? And you're like,
yeah, I'll be honest. I was like sitting on the couch watching some Netflix, like shorts, like big t-shirt, not done anything. I was like, okay. Like, I would never ever do that normally, but I don't know, something inside me told me, like, Shivanii, just get on the call now. And we got on the call, and it kind of just was like, okay, this is happening. I everything that he said and you said about the company, about the mission, about what you really want to grow in terms of engagement and community, and like really getting the kids involved and like sharing and all that kind of stuff, was kind of perfectly aligned with everything that I know that I didn't know I wanted. It kind of just fit perfectly together. And on top of that, being able to do interviews and being a face of this, and just getting the word out, it just felt right. And some things just feel right. There was a lot of moments in my life where things just kind of clicked, and I'll say this, one of the things that I feel like is very me is, as soon as something comes up, I will know very intuitively that's like, okay, do it or not do it. There are a lot of things that there's some things that I just know, yes, just go for it. And other things I'll be super confused about and end up not doing. But the things that always come up that feel just resonate the most and I just go for always end up being some of the best things and decisions I've made. And this is one of those things that I feel is just gonna be amazing to see how it unfolds. I know it's literally been a week, but I've already spent so much time this past week, working on things, going through the content, seeing how we can really take FUNancial and make it something so incredible and have such a big community of kids sharing and growing and, creating businesses and saving money and investing. But
so let's talk about that. So let's talk about, we won't get too deep into the context of the thing. What we think we're going to do is make this kind of a regular, I'd love to kind of on a weekly, maybe every couple of weeks, just kind of touch base with you and kind of share what you're doing for the company, so people can kind of track this career along as you evolve in this, but really as a way to kind of inspire both parents and children, because again, I truly believe that parents have to be a lot more engaged with their kids in terms of education. I don't think it's really fair to just leave it to the school system. I don't think the school system is designed to teach life skills as much as parents can, and especially what this program teaches is definitely not covered by most school systems. And yeah, we've been fortunate to visit schools in Malaysia where this type of approach is being advocated, and we've seen the results of that at the Dwi Mas school there, where they've included entrepreneurship as a core part of it, because when we can make, well, it's kind of funny, when you can make it fun, which is kind of, why the word fun exists in the title, it changes our relationship to things. And as you said early on, Shivanii, that often finance is not fun. I think the word finance is a very heavy word,
especially in the US.
Yeah,
where finance is associated with debt very quickly.
And look, as a family, we've been through our financial challenges. So I think, I think it was Kushani who said this, that, Dad, I think you have a resistance to looking at finances. And I think she's right. It's like, this is my 15-year-old kind of like pointing this out to me and calling me out on my own shit. As we say, again, this is not designed for kids. This is for the parent level interview, calling me out on my own BS, you could say. That, what, I do have a resistance to wanting to dive deep into finance, because when you've gone through several financial ups and downs, there's a certain pain that we attach to it. And I think if you just look at the debt in the country, how much debt individuals carry, for a lot of people, I think it's more turn a blind eye, to all this stuff. And if we can kind of make it fun to learn this stuff very early on, so that people don't have a resistance to it, they get the importance of the something simple as compounding, not just compound interest. I mean, a simple concept. This is just one of a gazillion concepts. But if you get this concept, the importance of not only compound interest, but also compound effort. Most entrepreneurs that I've ever coached have given up before that curve takes off. If you ever look at a compound interest curve, but compound effort works the same way. And I myself have been guilty of this. So I can say that, in the past, I never stuck to one thing long enough for that inflection point, for something to really take off. Yet every YouTuber talks about it. Everyone who's been successful on, say, Instagram, talk about it. You got to keep doing it until that change of curve and something happens, right? And so this is just one of many lessons one can learn. So the program has been very smartly created around 4 concepts. Can you kind of share more about the four concepts and how they work with each other?
Okay, so LEAP is what we call it. So L stands for learn. So, we'll teach concepts about finance and money, like where money originated from, like how money was even like started. Then we go into earn, which is where we go into, teaching a way that a child or teen or even an adult at this point can start to earn money both offline and online. And given that the world we live in right now with COVID and stuff, online is a great way to do that. So we have like really simple, easy to start online businesses that anyone can start. Then we go into accelerate, which is how to take the money that you've now started to earn and put it towards something that can accelerate the growth of that money. So, that might be investing, that might be stocks. It goes into a bunch of different things. And then we finally go into play, which is about, what can you do beyond just that? So maybe it's giving back to a charity. Maybe it's helping others with their financial education. So like a sibling or even your parent. Imagine a kid going through this and then going, hey, Dad, did you know about such and such? Maybe you should do it. So it's just those little things that we can go through. And so we call it LEAP. And that's a basic, overarching view of what we cover every month in financial.
And the content's beautifully drip fed, so it's not overwhelmed. Very easy to digest. In fact, again, I've been through many online courses. I think you've been through as many as I have, if not more. And I think this is one of the best courses I've seen. And yes, while it is designed for kids, it's as applicable for adults as well. In fact, it makes it easier for adults to learn because it's done so simply and in a very fun format without the heaviness of most financial programs. So self-confessed fan.
It's done in such a way that it takes it doesn't make you feel like, oh, I gotta learn about money and finance now. It's like, oh, what's new? Like, it brings that sense of excitement when learning about money and finance and different ways. And it's just it's like breathing in fresh air every time I look. Every time I.
Let's give a shout out to Ray DeGray, who's on here, because the
Hi,
fact that we're even doing an interview is because of Ray and Maria. So, God, it must be about 16 weeks ago, give or take. We both started their interview program or training program at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the reason I got involved was actually when I first met Maria and Ray, and they told me about that they train entrepreneurs and experts in how to give and do interviews. I thought, oh, this would be really cool for Shivanii. And I had no intention of ever being part of it myself. And then somehow I got myself into the program too. And I've kind of not looked back. I love it. In fact, now I don't really do business meetings. If I meet somebody new, I say, you know what, rather than me just us having a conversation, let's just do an interview. That way I get to learn about you and I get to kind of share you with the world as well. So Ray, thank you so much for your tutoring and your mentoring in the space of interviewing. Hey folks, if you're watching this and you want to learn how to give and do interviews for your business or just for your cause, drop a comment and I will connect you to Ray and Maria. They have a fantastic 12-week program that both myself and Shivanii have gone through. So big advocates for that. So sorry, go off track. Rabbit. So let's get back on. So you're talking about the LEAPS program's done. So just tell us, okay, what's coming up in the future? I know that you're working on several initiatives for the company, all very exciting. Again, I have an inside track, but let's hear it from your perspective in terms of what you're working on right now and what's coming up for the future in terms of the role of community engagement champion.
Okay, so I am currently working on a 4-week course, which is going to be super, super exciting. Kind of like a start and introduction into what we do at FUNancial. And so it's going to be an awesome course where daily you're going to receive a piece of content, something to learn about, and an activity to do that day. And so parents and kids can do it together and participate and progress and really use the LEAP model. So each week we'll cover L and then we'll learn, earn, and go through it in the 4 weeks. And then the other thing we're actually working on is the teen content. So I'm actually going to be working on a lot of the teen stuff and being more of a face for teens and learning about finances and money and really get that going. So both of those things I'm super excited about. There's a lot more that's going to be happening in terms of engagement. So a lot more lives and interviews. I'm hopefully going to be interviewing a lot more kid and teen entrepreneurs and people that have been working in finance, but mostly kids and teens, and to really show what's possible. Ashley is someone, so I'm hopefully going to interview. I haven't told Ashley this, but I'm pretty sure she'll accept because she's awesome. And so there's a lot of fun stuff unfolding, and I'm so excited.
That's really cool. Hey folks, if you're watching this and you have a 7 to 17-year-old in your family, and you kind of want to encourage them to become more financially literate and maybe even step into the world of funpreneurship, then drop a comment or simply go to FUNancialFreedom.club and you can learn a lot more about there. In fact, you can even test out the program for a $1 trial there and see if you like it, see if your kids like it. It's a great program. In fact, I wouldn't have recommended this role to my daughter if I didn't think it was. And in fact, I probably wouldn't be working with the company if I didn't think it was one of the best things going on in the world right now, especially with what's going on in the world right now, where we have to become a lot more responsible for our future. We can't rely on corporates to employ people. We can't rely on governments, and we don't know where the school system is going to. So I think parents, be a little bit proactive, take an active role in giving your kids that extra piece of education. So Shivanii, any final words? I know that we have so much more we could talk about with this role, but anything else you just kind of end with here about your future in this new role?
So firstly, I want to say that if you're a parent or even, a teen or kid, and you've either seen this interview or you are, know about this at all, and you haven't taken any action towards like watching or joining, I would highly, 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 I know I'm part of the company, but still highly recommend it, not from a person who is part of the company, but from a person who's seen the content and just know how much I've learned from it at 20. And if kids can start this even earlier, parents, you're going to be super grateful, because I think every parent, and I'm speaking on behalf of my dad here, but I think every parent wants the best for their children in terms of everything. But one of the things that a lot of parents tend to think about, I think unconsciously, is to make sure that their kids are financially stable in the future. And this is just a great first step for that. And so kids will love it. You'll love it as a parent, because not only will your kids be learning, but I 100% assure you that you'll probably learn something too. So highly recommend that you join and really see what we're talking about here and how awesome this platform and program is. And secondly, I think what my final words is, I am so beyond grateful and excited to be a part of FUNancial now. As I said, it's like everything is aligned up to this point, and I'm so excited to see how everything unfolds. It's just the beginning of an amazing thing going forward in terms of what I know this community will be and what FUNancial will be. So just join.
Join and have some fun as we kind of go on this adventure together. So folks, as a parent, I encourage you, as Shivanii says, she's encouraged you. So go check it out, FUNancialFreedom.club, and that's financial with a fun in the beginning, because hey, if we don't put the fun back into this life, what is it all about? So Shivanii, again, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll look forward to being on this journey together.
Yes, definitely. Thank you
But
so much.
as we say, Shivanii, it's that time to buzz off. Bye for now. Bye.